The NDC National Vice Chairman, Sofo Azoka, openly declared that there will be by-election in my constituency. Justice must be seen to be done. Justice cannot be harsh on critics and lenient on those who are closer to power.
Honorable Afenyo Markin, the godfather, and then as I'm talking to you, the minority leader of the Parliament House of Ghana. A lot of people will be wondering, say, asem no kan no ewom anase nim anase asem no kan hansa ne fapem anasa say. You know, this time around, Honorable Afenyo Markins, in his opening remarks, make it clear to the government and also to the people of Ghana and Neoma Ghana for Namu. He also emphasized that the former Chief Justice, and as I'm talking to you, Madam Tokunu Efri Honono, what's it said? They are against it. And then they, the minority, they are not going to back the president for what he did. Aside that, he also expressed some deep concern about the Galamsey issue. Said this time around, it is getting out of hand under John Dramani Mahama. You know, here is the VJ show. You do to subscribe. You share the link. Tell us about the VJ show. And the next thing is you do to leave a comment. Until Honorable Afenyo Markin.
So, Speaker, during the recess, we were struck with sorrow with the passing of 8 distinguished citizens who served Ghana with dedication and honor. We mourn our respected colleague, Ibrahim Mutala Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, and Minister for Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation. We also remember Dr. Edward Omani Buama, Minister for Defense, Alhaji Muniru Mohammed, Acting Deputy National Security Coordinator, the Deputy Dr. Samuel Sapon, Vice Chairman of National Democratic Congress, and Samuel Abuaje, former parliamentary candidate, Squadron Leader Peter Bafami Anala, Flying Officer Manin Chum Ampedu, and Sergeant Ernest Adu Mensah. Mr. Speaker, the minority extends its deepest condolences to their families, loved ones, and all who mourn their loss. May their soul rest in perfect peace. Even as we are inspired by their dedicated service to recommit to public service with dignity, courage, and honor. Mr. Speaker, we have today also welcomed 2 new members of Parliament, a member for Akwitia and Tamale Central. Their arrival is a solemn reminder of both the grief we share and the hope we carry for renewed service. Mr. Speaker, the state of our nation's governance presents a mix of trials and opportunities, from economic hardship on the home front to unsettling development on the international stage. These past months have indeed tested our resilience as a country. Mr. Speaker, Ghanaians remain concerned about the economy. While recent indicators show modest macroeconomic gains, these are yet to bring real relief to the ordinary citizen. The truth is, stabilization means little if the youth remain unemployed and families still struggle with the cost of living. The mass dismissals across key state institutions represent a direct assault on the integrity of public service. Competent officers who were employed have been sacked from office under directives from the Chief of Staff. These dismissals were carried out without due process, without cause, and in clear violation of constitutional and statutory provisions. These are politically motivated acts that undermine professionalism, weaken state institutions, and erode public confidence in governance. The recent labor unrest whilst we were on break shows a clear public discontent. Over 200 junior doctors have worked for 10 months without pay, and more than 800 remain unposted. Newly trained teachers and nurses have also gone months without salaries. These are the stories of hardship people face. A government that fails to pay its frontline workers cannot claim to care for its people. Mr. Speaker, It must be emphasized that the MPP government, whilst in office, initiated the 1D1F. This was conceived as a vehicle to drive industrial growth and create sustainable jobs through private sector participation. However, government actions in recent months show a clear lack of commitment to that vision. Instead of providing real support to existing private sector jobs and easing the cost of doing business, bureaucracies are being created, frustrating investors and entrepreneurs. This stifles innovation, discourages productivity, and risks choking the public sector with inefficiencies that private sector was meant to relieve. But, Mr. Speaker, no economy can grow when private sector initiative is replaced with political control. The time has come for government to walk the talk of ensuring that the private sector becomes the real engine of growth. Enough of the rhetorics. The 24-hour economy must not be an empty talk. It must provide a hope for many youths who expect jobs. Mr. Speaker, on the governance front, governance is about upholding freedom, justice, and the rule of law. The frequent arrests of opposition figures, journalists, and ordinary citizens on flimsy and politically motivated charges exemplify a pattern of harassment intended to silence dissent. They paint a troubling picture of a shrinking civic space in our democracy. Even more disturbing, young Ghanaians expressing frustration on social media have been targeted, questioned, and in some cases detained. The question we ask as a minority is this the reset we were promised or an era of regression into intolerance? Mr. Speaker, the case of David Afenyo, a young man known on social media as Kwame Nkrumah #2, highlights the disturbing double standards in how justice is applied. After a live stream on social media, he was swiftly arrested, prosecuted, and sentenced to 7 months in prison. Much as the law must be applied, we must ask, is the state equally swift when government-affiliated individuals commit similar or worse infractions? Not long before this incident, during the Akwetia by-election, the NDC National Vice Chairman, Sofo Azoka, openly declared that there will be by-election in my constituency. That was a threat, plain and simple. Unlike in the case of Kwame Nkrumah II, the police have not taken action. Mr. Speaker, why is there no urgency on this matter? Why the speed in one case and silence in another? Justice must be seen to be done. Justice cannot be harsh on critics and lenient on those who are closer to power. The broader context deepens our concern. Mr. Speaker, on the 8th of September, the Bono Regional Chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. Kwame Bafo Abronye, popularly known as Abronye DC, was arrested and detained on charges that appear politically motivated. The court ruling in this case raises deeper constitutional questions. In delivering judgment, the presiding judge, His Lordship Akwa, cited George Orwell's Animal Farm, observing that, quote, all men are equal, but some are more equal than others, unquote, and went on to quote the late President Robert Mugabe, purportedly, quote, I can assure you of freedom of speech, but cannot assure you of freedom after speech, end quote. Mr. Speaker, these remarks to us as the minority, coming from the bench, convey an unsettling message that equality before the law and freedom of expression may no longer be treated as fundamental rights, but as privileges subject to interpretation and power. Such reasoning, if left unchecked, sets a worrying precedent for democratic governance and judicial independence. The use of Orwell and supposed quote from Mugabe to rationalize the restriction of free speech undermines the spirit of our Constitution, which guarantees every citizen the right to express opinion without fear of reprisal. Ghana's courts have long stood as the last line of defense for liberty, and any departure from that role risks eroding public confidence in justice itself. The minority, therefore, finds this trend dangerous and calls for restraint, reflection, and a renewed commitment to fairness, equality, and the true meaning of freedom under the rule of law. Mr. Speaker, the minority registers its unequivocal objection to the removal of the Chief Justice, Mrs. Gertrude Araba Esaba Saki Tokonu. We believe the process lacked transparency, violated constitutional principles, and set a dangerous precedent for judicial interference. 3 separate petitions were referred to the Puaman Committee. The committee only had 1 petition, then adjourned proceedings for continuation on the 15th of September. Yet, without notice to any party in the matter, the committee suddenly submitted a report on the 1st of September, and within 2 hours, an announcement was made of a removal. Was that adjournment a deception, Mr. Speaker? Even more troubling was a warrant of the suspension. It claimed to have made a prima facie determination, but to date, no one has seen such document, and this raises serious constitutional questions. The so-called Puaman report remains a secret document, shall not relent on our demand for a copy and a full disclosure of this report. Mr. Speaker, this matter goes beyond one individual. If this false and irregular process succeeds, it endangers every independent constitutional body. The Auditor General, the Electoral Commission, the National Commission for Civic Education, and even the Public Services Commission could be targeted next under the same Article 146 procedure. The question that must even be asked, that when a person is removed as a Chief Justice, does he or she remain a Justice of the Supreme Court? This will destroy the safeguards of accountability and erase the principle of probity from our governance. If judicial independence can be manipulated in this manner, we should not expect free or credible elections in future. Mr. Speaker, the judiciary is the last line of defense for our democracy, and any act that undermines its independence strikes at the heart of our constitutional order. The minority will resist any attempt to compromise the sanctity of the judiciary. Ghana's institutions must be protected from political manipulation, and we will not sit idly by while dangerous precedents are set. On the issue of illegal mining, we, the minority, are of the view that this represents one of Ghana's gravest governance challenges that has persisted across successive governments and which has escalated into a full-blown national crisis is the menace of illegal mining, popularly known as galamsey. The devastation caused by galamsey to our environment, water bodies, and public health cannot be overstated. Even as we convene today, Mr. Speaker, our rivers run brown with pollution. Vast tracts of once fertile land lies carried and toxic, and many of our citizens in mining communities face illness and danger from poisonous chemicals. We have talked about illegal mining for years, yet the problem has only grown worse. Time for mere talk is over. We need decisive, visionary action now to save our country's future from disaster. Not long ago, we were warned. One such early warning came in 2010 when investigative journalist Anas Arimayel Anas released a documentary exposing the dark underbelly of galamsey. That expose, part of the Africa Investigate series, shone a light on the tragic consequences of illegal mining that were already evident back then. The documentary recounted how in June 2010, a galamsey pit near Dunkwa Onofin flooded, killing an estimated 150 people in a single disaster. the rampant corruption and complicity that allowed Galamsey to flourish, including officials meant to enforce the law taking bribes to look the other way. It highlighted the environmental havoc being unleashed, rivers poisoned with mercury, cyanide and other toxins, local communities suffering flooding and pollution, fishermen and farmers losing their livelihood. ANAS's work in 2010 was an early warning alert for our nation. Then again in 2015, Finance Minister Honorable Ațțacks again brought this up at the Finance Committee hearing in Parliament when discussing reasons for the declining cocoa production in Ghana. Tragically, Mr. Speaker, those warnings were not heeded with the urgency and seriousness they deserved. Fast forward, today, the nightmare scenario is upon us. Just last month, new study by Pure Earth and Ghana's own EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, revealed terrifying data about toxin levels in mining communities. In some areas, mercury contamination in the soil is 134 times above safe levels, and arsenic concentration are over 4,000% higher than what the WHO deems safe. These poisonous metals are seeping into the water, into food crops, into the very bodies of our people. Doctors are reporting an uptick in children from mining areas developing kidney disorders.
So that's the minority leader for us, Honorable Afenyo Markin, and some of the other Ghana. Now, Okasani Munina, Okadibi about the 24-hour economy, about nurses and then doctors, at a Yenche or Moka. Honorable Afenyo Markin, making sure that obey stating declares that the president and also the government will make sure so obey Chio Muninaka. You know, here is the VJ show. You do what to subscribe. You share the link. Tell us about the VJ show. And the next thing is you do what to leave a comment.